What's going on, y'all? Ray here with Second Chance Rising, the channel that's more than just our music, but a ministry as well as mixing and recording tips, as well as gear reviews. Hey, this week's Wednesday's Word, we're in the book of Malachi, and we're talking about the quality of our sacrifice. Hey, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, and we're going to get right into it. So this week we're in the book of Malachi. It's the last book of the Old Testament. Malachi literally means messenger, and boy does he deliver a message to the Israelites at a certain time in their history that they really are needing God's intervention. We'll start here in chapter 1 and verse 10. How I wish one of you would shut the temple doors so that these worthless sacrifices would not be offered. I'm not pleased with you, says the Lord of heaven's armies. I will not accept these offerings. And as we pick up here in verse 12, but you dishonor my name with your actions. By bringing me contemptible food, you are saying it's all right to defile the Lord's table. You say it's too hard to serve the Lord, and you turn up your noses at my command, says the Lord of heaven's armies. Think of it. Animals that are stolen and crippled and are sick are being presented as offerings. Should I accept from you such offerings as these? In these verses, we see God's disappointment as well as his anger. You know, it kind of reminds me of a story when I was a child and my dad told me he was disappointed in some of the actions and decisions that I'd made. You know, hearing those words was very hurtful from my father because I'd let him down. I would have just assumed had a whooping, as we say down here in the South. But can you imagine hearing those words that Malachi was telling the people of Israel? You talk about God's wrath, talking about the fear of God. They had allowed their worship to be half-hearted, half ungenuine, disrespectful to the Lord and what his requirements were. God, through the prophet Malachi, confronts the people about their half-hearted worship and their half-hearted sacrifices and lack of devotion to the Lord. You know, there was definitely no sugarcoating or tickling of the ears like we hear in so many pulpits of today. Even to the point that he said we'd rather have the temple doors shut than to have such a half-hearted or lack of sacrifice. You know, the Israelites had history on their side. They had rebuilt the temple. They had also wandered around in the wilderness for many years. They had seen God's blessings as well as their punishment when they had went astray. And it's just like us. We had the benefits of that same history here in the words of Malachi and throughout the Holy Bible. As we reflect on these verses, it's a reminder of how the importance of genuine worship is. Worship is just not going to church for a couple hours on Sunday. And maybe if you're a radical Christian, maybe you go to Wednesday nights too for Bible study. But doesn't God deserve so much better than that? A couple hours on Sunday, maybe an hour or two on Wednesday? You know, God desires our utmost devotion, 100% in. And you know, we're not just talking about our tithes and offerings, but our time, resources, and talents. And that's what I want to kind of key on a little bit today. So many times these verses are preached about tithes and offerings, but I want to talk a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper in our time and our resources and our talents. You know, are we using our talents to serve the Lord? Are we using our resources to serve the Lord? When someone asks you, can you fill in for me on Sunday school, or can you teach Sunday school? He said, I don't know, let me check my schedule. Boy, that's going to take so many more hours for me to prepare during the week. Are we putting something before God? I think we are. I'm stepping on my own toes here too. It's giving us something to think about. You know, when I first started Second Chance Rising, it was always intended on a place that I could share my testimony and share Jesus through songs and music, which was very easy for me to do. I enjoyed it. That was the easy part. Not much of a sacrifice, you might say. Even started out with our earliest shows, and the first show called Music and a Message, where it was just as much message and talking and testimonies than there was music. And we just went through so many years where I wasn't sharing more of that type of content in devotionals. And the Lord spoke to me earlier this year, and I had to commit to him because he was calling me out on it. Because basically I wasn't doing it because I didn't want to give up my free time at the lake, or the free time fishing, or my free time, you know, going to the beach, or whatever else that I was putting before God. And yes, it does take a lot of time, and I think it takes a tremendous amount of time. But doesn't God even deserve so much more than that? You know, I hope this week's Wednesday's Word helps us all examine our hearts and find the areas of worship that we become lackluster, insincere, or settling for a level of mediocrity. I hope that we look at our time and our talent and our resources, and I hope that we can just kick it up a little bit a notch, maybe 10 more percent in the next couple of weeks of giving that time, resources, and talents to the Lord. I hope that you're enjoying these series. I hope that you're enjoying the channel, the music, the devotionals, maybe the mixture, the gear reviews. I hope that you'll consider subscribing, ringing that bell so you'll get notified for the next videos. Make sure you share this with your friends. Let God's timing work. You never know who needs to hear this other than just me and you. Hope that you have a great week, and God bless you, and keep looking up.